for any tools that we have available to us to try to promote that.
Good. Well, hopefully we will see something break in terms of that investment soon. Mr. Sosha, in 2024, the Gambia formalized a special tribunal that was tasked with prosecuting human rights violations during the reign of President Jama. That tribunal was supposed to receive $60 million in U.S. assistance until the funding cuts by the Trump administration last year. So can you talk about, if confirmed, how you would work to support the efforts by that tribunal and to replace the resources that they've lost because the United States has reneged on our agreement?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think the Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparations Commission has really set the stage for the continued democratic development in the Gambia. It is an issue that I will focus on so that Gambia's democracy can continue to flourish. I do believe that any foreign aid directed toward the Gambia needs to be efficient and effective, and if confirmed, that is the priority that I intend to take up.
And have you spoken to anyone in the country about how they expect to replace those resources that they were looking for in order to see that tribunal finish its work?
Unfortunately, as Senator, pending this committee's decision and the vote of the Senate, I have not spoken to anyone in the country, but as I believe in my career, one of the chief roles of a diplomat is to listen. I look forward to arriving to the Gambia and having those conversations.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. I had to return from a quick vote, so I'll take my chance at some questions here. Mr. Mastriano, I want to start with you. And I know you had some questions asked and ran out of time at the end. So is there anything you'd like to, I'll give you some time to answer any questions that you don't think you fully answered.
Senator, I'll defer to you on Slovakia. I think I've been on the other side too long. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Very good. So let me ask you then a question about Slovakia.
Sure.
Within the context of Europe and some of the questions about leadership in the European Union, how will you participate in concert with our NATO allies to ensure that there's a strong European response to Russian aggression?
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for that. And I've been, since the 80s, I've worked on Russia in some category, whether they're in the Cold War and facing the Soviets and the 8th Guards Tank Army or Putin today. And I have to say, first off, I'm astounded at the turn of the war in Ukraine. We're seeing a revolution in military affairs happening in Ukraine, and I don't see how long Russia, despite its power and size, can endure. But be that in mind, we need a unified front from NATO allies, especially Slovakia. And one key step in that, Senator, I think, is finding a better way to get fuel and energy to Slovakia rather than relying heavily upon Russian oil and gas. I think one step, and you and I would love this, Pennsylvania LNG going through the Kirk terminal in Croatia and then shipping it up to Slovakia might be one way. As far as oil, it's a problem. I understand the refineries are Soviet era or designed to refine Russian oil, which is not as high grade as Pennsylvania or Texas or Louisiana, and they may need some upgrades in that regard. But I remember when I was in the Baltics trying to get the 3 Baltic nations off, they were 100% 10 years ago on Russian oil and gas, and they built a ship that the Lithuanians called the Independence in honor of their link with Pennsylvania, and they are now independently off of Russian oil and gas. I want to see the same success for Slovakia, and I think I have what it takes and experience to make that happen with them. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, we talked about Chinese aggression and expansionist tendencies. If confirmed, how would you expect to engage with Cambodian leadership to preserve, number one, Cambodia's autonomy, and to ensure the Ream naval base does not become a platform for expanding China's military power in the Indo-Pacific?
Yes, thank you, Senator. Extremely valuable question. It can really be approached from honestly almost everything in the spectrum of Cambodia, whether it is scam centers, economic activity, security cooperation, but most importantly, regional partnerships, when you get into the importance of ASEAN and what they do in the region. Additionally, it will rely on face-to-face conversations with the Cambodian government. And if confirmed, it will rely on me to sit down and have frank conversations of the reality of Ream Naval Base. And if it truly is, as Hunmanet says, open to all friendly nations. If so, I think it's worth exploring the options of more annual visits from U.S. naval vessels. But additionally, as I said earlier, if we see advancement in U.S. bilateral relations, that means that we can explore additional tools in the toolbox based on that working relationship. And if confirmed, I not only would be happy to do that, but work with this committee, having come from this institution, work with this committee to really identify what we can advance.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Blom, Senator Rose and I chair the subcommittee on the Middle East, and we often talk about phase 2 of the Abraham Accords and our hopes and aspirations for the region. Given your potential remit, how would you think about the next stage of opportunities for expanding the Abraham Accord countries, and who do you see as the most likely of candidates?
Well, thanks. It's important. It's an important question. As we've been discussing here, it's a moment while the region is gripped with crisis in many ways. It also presents a number of opportunities. There are a lot of active lines of diplomacy right now. I think one of the things we have to do is to make sure the expansion of that regional integration is part of those discussions and is linked to progress on these things. So I think there are opportunities. I'm not sure, which country exactly is the next candidate.
And if you did, you might not want to say it, I'm imagining. Yeah.
That's quite possible, Senator. Thank you. But I do think there are opportunities, and I absolutely am committed to exploring that, including with this committee.
Very good. We look forward to hopefully having that conversation with you together. Yes. That's a common goal for the both of us. Well, listen, to all of our nominees, I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank the families. Thank you for providing us with the benefit of your testimony and your answers. Before closing, I'd like to add any letters of support the committee has received to the record, and I'll also note for information for all of you that the record will remain open until noon on Friday, July 17th. So if there's any clarifications you'd like to make to your testimony or answers you'd like to provide to this committee, those would be most welcome up until that time. With the thanks of the committee, with Senator Rosen and myself, this hearing is now adjourned.